The buzz is everywhere. $2,000 stimulus checks are on the way. But who exactly is getting one? If you're on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or a veteran receiving VA benefits, you're likely wondering if you're eligible for this much talked about financial relief. With inflation rising and the cost of living still climbing, the need for financial support is more critical than ever, and the IRS is stepping in with a new round of checks. But the question on everyone's mind is, when will they arrive and who qualifies? Here's what you need to know, because the information out there can be confusing and hard to trust. We are cutting through the noise to give you the facts, straight from the sources that matter most. First, you've got to understand that the $2,000 stimulus checks are part of ongoing efforts to support American seniors, especially those who rely on Social Security or disability benefits to get by. The IRS has been sending out payments to individuals who meet the right criteria, but it's important to note that not every senior automatically gets a check. If you're receiving Social Security or SSI, you may be eligible for this relief, but there are certain conditions you need to meet. Veterans and those on SSDI are also in the mix, but there are a few details to keep in mind, like your income level and tax filing status. The big question remains, when are the checks coming, and how can you make sure you're included in the list? Many seniors have been waiting for clear updates from the IRS, and while the exact timing is still unclear, we'll break down the latest info. We'll also go over how to track your payment and what steps you can take to ensure you're not missing out on what could be a critical financial lifeline. This video will walk you through the exact criteria, who qualifies for the $2,000 stimulus checks, and what you need to do to get yours, without all the confusion or mystery. Stick with us as we unpack everything you need to know, so you can stay ahead of the game. Now let's dive into the specifics of the $2,000 stimulus checks and break down exactly who qualifies and why it's important for you to stay on top of this information. The $2,000 payments are a part of ongoing efforts by the U.S. government to provide financial relief to individuals who are struggling due to the pandemic's economic fallout, especially seniors who are often on a fixed income. But with so much information flying around, it's easy to feel lost in the shuffle. That's why it's important to understand who's eligible for these stimulus checks, how the IRS is distributing them, and what you can do to make sure you're included in the next round of payments. First, let's address who qualifies for these checks. If you're receiving Social Security benefits, whether it's retirement, SSI, or SSDI, you might be wondering if you're on the list. For many seniors, Social Security is their primary source of income. This group of individuals has been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, with rising healthcare costs, increased food prices, and higher everyday expenses. That's where the stimulus checks come in as a potential lifeline. The IRS has made it clear that people on Social Security, SSI, and SSDI who meet specific income requirements could receive the $2,000 stimulus checks. But the process isn't automatic for everyone. If you're receiving Social Security or SSI, and your income falls below a certain threshold, you are most likely eligible for this payment. However, you will need to ensure that the IRS has your correct information and that you filed your tax returns, especially if you're in a situation where you don't typically file taxes because of your income level. For those who receive SSDI, the rules are similar. If you meet the income requirements and the IRS has your information, you should receive your check too. Veterans are also in the mix, and if you're receiving VA benefits, the same guidelines apply. However, there are a few distinctions when it comes to veterans who are receiving compensation, pension, or other VA benefits, so it's crucial to stay up to date on the latest news regarding these payments. One thing to note is that these payments are designed to help people who are struggling, so there's a specific set of guidelines that the IRS follows when determining eligibility. If you're receiving benefits, the IRS will look at your income, tax filings, and potentially your family's situation. If you're married or live with a partner, the IRS might consider your household income when determining eligibility. It's important to understand that the $2,000 payment is not an automatic deposit for everyone, so you need to make sure your records are up to date. If you haven't filed taxes recently, this could be the key to ensuring that you get your payment on time. Now, I know many of you might be thinking, when is this money coming? And how can I track it? The truth is, the IRS has been sending out payments in waves, and depending on your situation, you may receive it at different times. The government has been working hard to process these payments, but with millions of checks to send out, the process takes time. However, there's good news. If you're wondering when your check might arrive, you can track it using the IRS Get My Payment tool. This online tool allows you to enter your information and check the status of your payment. It will show you if your payment has been processed, if it's on its way, or if the IRS needs more information from you to complete the payment. Now let's talk about what happens if you don't receive your stimulus check. It's frustrating when you're expecting a financial boost and it doesn't come through as planned. But don't panic, there are steps you can take. If you haven't received your payment yet, the first thing you should do is check the IRS tool to see if they have your payment scheduled. If it's showing that your payment hasn't been sent, you might need to update your information with the IRS. In some cases, if you haven't filed a tax return in recent years, the IRS might not have your current address or bank account information. In this case, you'll need to file a simple tax return to ensure they have your correct information. The good news is that the IRS is very aware that many seniors, especially those on Social Security or disability, are relying on these payments to get by. They've made it easier for seniors who don't typically file taxes to claim the stimulus money without the need for complex paperwork. If you haven't filed taxes in recent years, the IRS has a special online tool that allows you to submit the minimum information required to get your check, including your bank details for direct deposit. This is an essential step to make sure you get the payment as quickly as possible. For many seniors, this $2,000 check could be a critical piece of their financial recovery. Whether it's paying for unexpected medical bills, buying groceries, or simply covering day-to-day living expenses, the stimulus check is designed to ease the burden. It's also important to note that if you're living on a fixed income and haven't seen any substantial increase in your Social Security payments recently, the additional money could be a real game changer. The rising cost of healthcare, inflation, and everyday goods has made it difficult for many to make ends meet. That's why these stimulus payments are such an essential resource, especially for the senior community. It's also important to note that the $2,000 checks aren't just about financial relief. They're also a reflection of the government's recognition of the hardships that many seniors face. The fact that the IRS is focusing on ensuring that people who rely on Social Security and disability benefits are included in this round of stimulus payments is a positive sign for the future. It shows that the government is acknowledging the struggles of seniors and doing what it can to provide support. But as we know, navigating government programs can sometimes feel like a maze. It's not always clear who qualifies for what, how to apply, or how to track your benefits. That's why staying informed and up to date is critical. Every senior needs to take proactive steps to ensure they're receiving the benefits they qualify for. This includes regularly checking in on updates from the IRS, ensuring your contact information is current, and filing a simple tax return if you haven't done so in the last year or two. So, if you're wondering about the $2,000 stimulus check and whether you're eligible, the answer is that if you're a senior on Social Security, SSI SSDI, or receiving VA benefits, there's a good chance you're on the list. But the key is making sure the IRS has the right information. It's not always a quick process, but the relief it can provide is well worth staying on top of the details. Finally, let's talk about what you can do now to get ready for the payment. First, visit the IRS website and use the Get My Payment tool to check your status. If you need to update your information or file a tax return, do it as soon as possible. This will help ensure you don't miss out on this crucial financial support. Second, keep an eye out for official communication from the IRS or your bank, especially if you're expecting a direct deposit. If you don't have direct deposit set up, be prepared for a check to arrive in the mail, which might take a little longer. In the end, staying informed and taking the necessary steps now can ensure that you get your $2,000 stimulus check when it's sent out. With so many uncertainties in the world, this payment could be just the financial boost you need to stay afloat and cover some of those rising expenses. Make sure you're not left behind, take action today, and keep watching for any new updates about the timing of these checks.